really get my big break until I got involved in Bitcoin in 2011, 2012. Back then I didn't know how successful it would be, but buying Bitcoin for less than $50 turned out to be a really good investment.
I hate people like you. Back then it was pure speculation, right? And I still, to an extent, still feel it's speculation.
Well, the market is pure speculation, like completely. But the crypto market is the most technically tradable market out there.
Look, a lot of people got into it back in the early days for potentially unscrupulous things. It was an easy way to go on to buy things on the market without having any kind of traceability around it.
We're coming to a point where the volatility will slow down. People are going to realize that 99.9% of crypto is vaporware. If you're trading crypto, it's like learning how to trade the stock market on steroids. Like I hear people selling their houses and jumping in with all that money into Bitcoin at 100 grand. I think they need to get their heads tested.
I can't tell you how many people I know more people have lost money than gained money from cryptocurrencies. Meme coins have, they've exploded. How many current cryptocurrencies are on the market at the moment? I know
I think there's over 1 million. I think meme coins should be banned. I think they have no purpose. If you cannot read a chart, you should not be anywhere near cryptocurrency. I would recommend to people to buy this company about a year and a half ago because I thought they were going to eat Tesla's lunch.
So what you're saying is China's a sleeping giant.
Exactly. So as the saying goes. But DeepSeek just goes to show what the Chinese can do. I'll say it though, I think Europe need to grow a set of balls. Stop bending the knee to Trump, because to be honest with you, if you look at the real figures...
He's a bully in the yard, and at the end of the day, if you hold the power, you hold the cards. It's a tactic that he's using. Well, will it work? Will it won't work? Who's to say? Okay, put it this way. Your younger self, what would you tell your younger self to change, or what would have helped you through the learning process to get where you are now? Hello and welcome back to Two Blokes Trading Podcast, episode 2. I'm delighted to introduce to you Mark Goff. Mark's a professional trader for a number of years now. He's a market analyst with an extensive background in crypto and stocks. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Jonathan. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Always a pleasure to get a chance to sit down in front of you. Every time that we meet up or we chat on the phone, like our conversations just spiral out of control. So to get you in front of the camera, allow our audience to listen to our conversation, I think it's going to be a good podcast.
Okay, good, yeah.
Tell me about your background.
My trading background, I was involved in various different businesses before I got into trading, but I was trading some stocks and that back in the early 2000s, but I didn't really get my big break until I got involved in Bitcoin in 2011, 2012. Back then I didn't know how successful it would be, but buying Bitcoin for less than $50 turned out to be a really good investment.
I hate people like you.
It did though.
Yeah, and that kind of then pushed you towards getting into the stock market, trading and
yeah, getting more into primarily I learned from trading crypto. Like, to be honest with you, if you're trading crypto, it's like learning how to trade the stock market on steroids, because the market is so fast moving. It's like the stock market. You could do in 1 year of the crypto, you could do 10 years in stock markets. So it's flying, like,
I think you said it earlier on to me, when you jumped into buying crypto, I think back then it was pure speculation, right? And I still, to an extent, still feel it's speculation, especially with the amount of crypto out there. And it's something that I've dabbled with, and I kind of jump in and out of a few bits and pieces. But for me as a trader for the last 15 years, I love historical data. I back the charts, I back the fundamentals, and I'm able to kind of create a bias from that, where the hardest thing for me with trading crypto was trying to create a bias in a market that's so volatile and with not enough data to back up my decision making. You kind of disagree a small bit with that.
Well, the market is pure speculation, like completely. But I'd never buy a crypto based on what the narrative is out there. It's more to do with technicals. Like, the crypto market is the most technically tradable market out there, because it's all technicals. We can spot a top very, very obviously with crypto. I find it a lot easier to actually spot that than with the fundamentals that are running through stock markets. So yeah, it's complete and utter speculation, crypto is. And we're coming to a time now where regulation is coming in Europe with the MiCAR laws, and we're due to have more regulation in the US. And I think when that comes, we're gonna do away with a lot of this speculation. People are gonna realize that 99.9% of crypto is vaporware, and it means nothing. It will actually do nothing. Companies out there are trying to reinvent the wheel, but the thing is, they won't get the network traction that the likes of even like some Microsoft or Twitter or any of these big companies have. They have the user base. So if one of these companies wanted to move into the crypto world, they'd sew it up in a second.
Interesting. And look, for me, crypto, it's all about the technologies, right? I mean, that's the absolute fundamental basis of why it's got so popular, transactional. And look, a lot of people got into it back in the early days for potentially unscrupulous things. It was an easy way to go on to buy things on the market without having any kind of traceability around it. That's obviously moved now to kind of intraday kind of usage of crypto in some sense. But when will it get to a point where you go to a car dealership, and there is already, but to a point where we don't have the volatility. Like I can accept a payment from you as a customer, and I know that tomorrow that value will be there somewhere thereabouts. I mean, how does it get to that point?
Well, we could be close to it, like depending on if the governments of the world start investing in Bitcoin. Well, then we have a different scenario where the price will rise like substantially. But if they don't, Bitcoin could be worth 100 to 200 grand for the next 5 or 10 years. We're coming to a point where the volatility will slow down, but the returns on investment on a Bitcoin investment, in my opinion, for the next few years are going to be nothing like we've had in the past.
Sure, we've all missed the gravy train.
Don't get me wrong, there is money to be made there, but a lot of people getting into crypto now, like I hear people selling their houses and jumping in with all that money into Bitcoin at 100 grand. I think they need to get their heads tested, to be honest with you.
And has the crypto bubble burst at this point in looking at all of the fall off recently, with a number of coins now really kind of hurting at the moment? Where do you see it going next? Obviously, there's so much. Look, the Gen Z, all the younger guys coming through, all want to get involved in the financial markets in some way or another. Crypto's a kind of easy way to jump in and speculate. But I can't tell you how many people I know more people have lost money than gained money from cryptocurrencies. Personally speaking, you might be in a different situation, but people are still chasing that big win. And that's why crypto is a great thing for new guys who think that they can jump in and get that big win. Whereas trading, is more about building consistency, understanding the markets, staying objective, having the data to back up your decision making. Whereas, like I say, everyone's kind of this, especially meme coins now. Like meme coins have, they've exploded. Everything is, how do I make this money quick? But more and more people are getting hurt in the back end.
Well, it's like I think people are getting stuck on the narrative of somebody making $1 million on a meme coin, but the actual statistics show there's a project there called Pump.fun on Solana, and in the last couple of months they've launched I think 500,000 different coins, and from that I think it's less than 1% of people have made over 10 grand. I think we have out of 18 million wallets, 350 of those wallets have made over $1 million. Only 350 out of 18 million. So you can see the problem here.
How many current cryptocurrencies are on the market at the moment? I know
I think there's over 1 million. Right. Because there's a couple of 100,000 meme coins. I think meme coins should be banned. I think they have no purpose whatsoever, and they've actually clouded the other areas of crypto that can actually do something. Don't get me wrong, like 99.9%, as I said, of all these cryptos will just be vaporware and become nothing. Blockchain is the main like advantage here. It's not these cryptocurrencies that we're talking about.
Absolutely,
The actual
it's a technology.
backbone of it is it's technology. It's
Absolutely.
blockchain, like, you know.
But when you see the likes of Trump coming out with Trump coin, you know, look, it's still trending. It's still top of people's, you know, agenda of what they're seeing, what they're believing in. And look, yes, you can make extensive gains from these big moves, but there's, like you say, it's weighing up how'd you get in at the right time? Because every time that we, you know, generally the retail trader wants to get in, they've gone in after, you know, the fact, you know.
Yeah.
And that's for me, that's the biggest problem.
If you cannot read a chart, you should not be anywhere near cryptocurrency, because if you cannot read the technicals, you're going to just lose your money. Because the market is so technical.
Or you just get in at the right time.
But you have to get out at the right time. The problem is getting out. It's easy to get in, but many people have a problem getting out.
But that's the same doesn't matter what you're trading, whether it's crypto, stocks, FX, commodities, anything, right? It's all about timing of entry and then when to take profit.
Yeah, this is true, but I think you have a little bit more time to get out in stocks. When the crypto market turns around, like, you know, you lose 80% of its value in 3, 4, 5 days. It's gone.
Therein lies the problem with meme coins and certain.
Yeah, it's like the crypto market is not a liquid market. It's an illiquid market. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, is also illiquid. And trying to put Bitcoin into a strategic reserve, as America are trying to do, is a big mistake. And people, the Bitcoin advocates will argue with me on this one, but tell me this: if Bitcoin was liquid, how has it lost 90% of its value in the last 3 times it hit its top? And until that stops, until Bitcoin does not lose 90% of its value, it should be nowhere near a governmental balance sheet.
At what point does it affect the dollar?
Bitcoin?
Yeah.
I mean,
if they're going to pursue crypto in a big way, that has to have
this is why I think it will not happen. Like, Donald Trump recently put a warning out there to the BRICS countries, and anybody else out there who wants to diverge from using the dollar as a natural asset for oil or gas and so on. And he said he will sanction them. So I don't believe that Bitcoin is going to end up in the reserve, because if he wants to make the dominant currency and continue to be that, you cannot dilute it with something else.
Agreed.
So maybe it will go into some kind of strategic investment, but not a reserve on the currency itself, because to me that would damage the dollar's dominance.
Sure. Let's move on to some stocks. Obviously, that's a big part of what you're trading, especially at the moment, where we've seen a lot of sideways action around some of the cryptos. But, you know, tell me, what stocks are you looking at the moment? I know we had a chat about this, and we'll push into the whole potential opportunities in different markets and so on. But looking at US stocks at the moment, obviously we're seeing that we've seen a massive surge in prices. Where are we at tops? Like, is there value in stocks, US stocks at the moment? It's
difficult, you know. Like, I had a good few picks this year on the AI side. I was trying to get into, like, outside of the hardware story with NVIDIA. I was trying to get into the actual companies that are producing AI projects as a whole. For instance, Big Bear AI. I think I was recommended a buy on them at about, I think it was about 160 a couple of months ago, and they rose 300% in a couple of months. So that deal is already done. So a lot of these companies, they will rise in price, but until they actually have the customers paying for the product, it's not actually worth what it says on the book.
Sure. And where are the markets going now? I mean, like, where are the opportunities? Where do you believe that they lie now?
Well, I've been looking at China, and a lot of people are skeptical about Chinese investments, but we've done fairly well on the ones we've picked out. There's one called 3CP. People may know it as Xiaomi. They're a gaming company from the 1990s, and they've started producing EV cars.
Well, the OG gamers will have heard of that, huh?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people will have heard of the company in that name, Xiaomi, but not as 3CP. But I was recommending people to buy this company about a year and a half ago, because I thought they were going to eat Tesla's lunch. And they went from $1.40 to $6.50 yesterday. in the space of 12 months. There's also a company out there called Qfin. They're an advertising company out in China, and they've also gained about 300% in the last couple of months. Alibaba, we were recommended that at $74. I think it hit 144 yesterday. So yeah, there's a lot of Chinese.
So what you're saying is China's a sleeping giant.
Exactly. So as the saying goes.
Okay, interesting. And okay, so just quickly looking at US stocks, because look, that's where, for me, I think there's more stability potentially. Yes, we may see fall off some of these all-time highs, but looking at Nvidia, going back to DeepSeek, we saw what happened there, and then within 2 days, 3 days, we saw an immediate reaction in the market. Tell me what you think in terms of how DeepSeek can affect the markets, and we're going to push on to Grok 3 in a minute as well.
Yeah, I think DeepSeek, they put out a lot of data out there that they built their model for. I think it was 5 or 10 million, was it? Or
that's supposedly.
Or billion, or it was really, really low compared to the incumbents.
Like 8 million, I believe.
But I don't believe it was that. I believe that they had a lot of work to do before that, and that was the last programming of the LLM cost them that much. But I think they spent about 50 billion before that to get to where they were. I don't think they could produce this with such little capital. But DeepSeek just goes to show what the Chinese can do. Also, their EV cars are taking over the world. So I think people are starting to wake up and see that the US markets are at a really, really toppy zone.
Like, the reaction is the key thing, right? For me, the reaction is the key. Like, seeing that reaction and seeing that pullback, immediate pullback, it just shows you how sensitive the markets are.
Well, yeah, they are. But to be honest with you, about a year and a half ago, I had a target for Nvidia was $1,400. And if you adjust that down to their stock split that they've done recently, it was $140.
Right.
So Nvidia bumped into trouble at $140. It was about a 1.618 Fibonacci extension zone, which is always an area where we take profit off the line. So it dropped by 40, dropped down to just 100. I think it was $105, $110. So yeah, it took a good 30% drop. But it's back there now. It's back at the top again. Nvidia is, because I believe that if you look into it deeper, DeepSeek is just an LLM model, but the real profit and the real goal of AI is actually to produce artificial general intelligence, and these LLM models are just stage one of that.
Sure.
So we have to go another 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stages up to get to like real intelligence, and I don't think DeepSeek is going to touch the big spenders when it comes to what they need to produce at the end of it. We need to have this like powering robots and technology. So this is not going to be the LLMs and what the consumer has seen of what we think AI is not what AI is. It's the simple form of it.
I mean, like, for me, especially since Trump has come in, right? So like the correlations aren't there that they were before, right? We're looking at so many things happening in the market that sometimes, a lot of time, don't make sense. We're seeing gold at all-time highs. We'll touch on that in a minute. We're seeing the DAX hitting all-time highs. I know we've seen a bit of a pullback in the last 2 days or so, but on the basis of their economy, where it is at the moment, so there's lots of things happening at the moment that don't make sense. And look, the market that is really, there's not a lot of stability in the market at the moment, right? Like, we've got Ukraine, Russia going on. We've got, and now obviously Trump coming out and having his say within that and looking for their minerals. And, like, there's so many uncertainties in the market that are traders just cautious? Is that why we're seeing all-time highs in gold? Give me your opinion.
Gold has been on the rise for the last 4 years. So back in 2020, I think Evergrande, the big property crisis, took place in China. Yeah. And also Xi Jinping has been putting some stipulations on the stock market in terms of like educational companies can't turn a profit. Mm-hmm. Gaming companies have to minimize the time people can spend online. So like these kind of changes in the stock market have just made people scared to invest in China. So with that, like the Chinese people were investing in gold we've heard about it, for the last 5 years, they've been investing massively in gold. On the flip side of that,
Tariffs.
America's ETFs have been, for those 4 years while China were buying gold, American ETFs were selling it off.
Yeah.
Because they seen value in the stock market, a better return.
Yeah.
But now we see America are net buyers again
Yeah.
in the ETFs of gold. So yeah, I think people can see are taking a hedge against any rockiness that comes in the next 12 months.
Okay.
In regards to Germany and the DAX being up a bit, I think traders are just pricing in the possibility of gas coming back from Russia again. That's what maintains Germany's competitiveness in the market. You know, they're big producers of glass, which requires massive amounts of energy.
Well, look, there's value as well in stocks. So, like, we have to understand as well that they're generally not directly correlated with the economy, right? The stock market, it's just not, you know. And I want to touch upon something that we spoke about a little while ago in terms of the energy market and like where is this going? Germany, they're really pulling back the industrial. You know, are they going to switch it back on again? Are we going to, you know, what's going to happen from here?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen from here, but I know Trump is talking to Russia at the moment, and there's two outcomes here. I believe that America want to keep on selling the LNG gas into Europe. I think it's a massive market for them.
Sure.
And they have a massive surplus over there. So they need to sell it to somebody. So I'm thinking that maybe Trump is in Putin's ear saying, okay, you can have X, Y, and Z from Ukraine, but don't turn back on the pipes. Now that's coming from my own head. I don't know whether they will or not.
Tell me about the 1960s trade war when it started, because it was really news to me when you told me about it when we last spoke. Maybe tell us a bit more about what that is.
The which?
The energy war. The US come over and they've been trying. You said what was that book that you read?
I read a book from a lady called, I think it was Helen Chamberlain, and it's called Hard Times in the 21st Century. And in that book, she talks about basically America's want to control the energy market in Europe. And Charles de Gaulle has been quoted saying numerous times, don't let America take control of our energy market because then they will control everything. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't like getting into conspiracies, but I do believe that if you have a surplus of gas, this would be a great way to sell it. Turn off the pipes in Russia, and we can sell the LNG into Europe. And to be honest with you, personally, I don't believe that Putin is stupid enough to blow up his own pipeline.
Sure, but I think everyone's trying to go to sustainable energy right now, right? That's a huge thing. Because of reliability and like I say, the instability, but also they're talking about nuclear energy. The problem with that is I think it takes 10, 15 years to get a plant. The other thing was somebody told me about this. I had a conversation when I went to get a cup of coffee in the kitchen, funny enough. And everywhere I go, people are kind of trying to pick my brains, ask me questions about what's going on, because everybody's got, you know, an interest in the financial markets, what's going on. And, you know, so every time I walk out the office, I get pulled by somebody. And we were speaking about this, and there's a new micro, and I wish I can remember what it was called. It was called it's like a micro nuclear energy that they're building at the moment, which is meant to be like produce incredible power, and is much quicker and easier to get to market as well. But that's where it's going, right? I mean, nuclear energy.
Yeah, I think so. Like, you know, as well as that, with AI, we need to actually double our capacity for energy now. So any inroads we've made on the green, on the ESG in the last 5-10 years, that's gone, because AI is going to drive like power consumption like double what we have at the moment. So we need to find a way to get green energy for double the requirement that we have right now. Sure. I don't think that's possible in the next 10 years. But interesting you say about nuclear energy, because I'm going to touch on this for a second, but about 6 years ago, I read an article about, I think it was about 6 years ago, Bill Gates had developed a much more energy efficient nuclear plants, which are much safer, cleaner, everything else. It's just brilliant. And he could find nobody in America to actually to build one of these. So this was during the last Trump presidency. He had a deal with China to to install these nuclear power plants out there, and within a month of that deal being done, Trump preceded it and said, no, you cannot bring our nuclear energy plans out to China, and they haven't done anything with it since. Right. So it's just sitting there waiting to go. So maybe that might start again.
Going back, tell me this, right? I want to ask you a question, because every time I ask you a question, the response I get generally usually blows my mind, or it gets me thinking on a different track or different pathway, right? AI, supercomputers, great, wow, they're amazing. Now we've got a quant computer, right? This quant computer, like, do you know much about it? Because I'd love to hear your opinion on it. I mean, we're talking about a computer that potentially is finding a way to signal and talk to other galaxies or things to get the answers that it's getting. Like, exactly. What's going on?
Look, I've been involved in IT for 20 years, but like I don't actually know the ins and outs of quantum computing. It's like, I think it's something that we cannot even explain yet, because we can't see it. You know, as you say there, it's like talking to other galaxies and stuff. I've read this as well. I can't get my head around it. I just can't. You know, at this moment in time, I cannot get my head around how it works, how long it will take. I know that the timeline is 15 years. Like, you know, a lot of people are saying it's going to be quicker recently, but I still think it's 10 to 15 years out before we have any major inroads.
Before it trickles down to me and you anyway, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I suppose it's how you conceptualize information. Can the general public deal with potential information that's out there, that's readily available? You know, I don't know, maybe not.
I heard yesterday Microsoft have made inroads somewhere along the way in making quantum computing. Yesterday, yeah, they have some new. Now, again, it's 10 years away from any production, but they say, well, we've made inroads in it, like, you know.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is mind-blowing, but again, I can't get my head around it. It's going to be able to, like, compute things we can't even think about, you know. It's
Look, you can buy a supercomputer now for like $3,000 off NVIDIA. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm thinking, well, I just buy one of these things, check it out. you know, like, literally AI agents, all this kind of stuff. I mean, the world is going, like, technology-wise, it's spiraling. Well, it's not spiraling. It's rocketing. You know, we don't know what the next 10 years are going to hold for us, and I think even 5 years potentially.
Yeah, it's technology. It's another technological super age. I think it's like the beginning of the internet once again. This is what we're having all over again with this AI.
Right? It's the same thing. This is a new. This is you know where the world is going for the next foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So tell me, let's move on quickly to currencies before we close it off. Dixie, what?
The Dixie's at 109. Well, it's 106
struggling
today.
At the moment, right?
It's at 106 today. My target on a weekly chart is 109. It can't go above 109. If it goes above 109, historically the markets go into a bear market. It happened in 2000, it happened in 85. Anytime we go above 109, it's like perilous, you know. It needs to drop back, and we had it at 114, I think, in 2021 for a couple of days. I think it was 2022. A couple of days about 114 it went to, and that was the bottom. The market actually, when it went to 114, markets dropped a bit slightly, but they actually bottomed out there, and that was the buy. It was the buy of the last 3 years was when the Dixie went at 114. This could be the same at 109, but I think it can go a little bit higher than 109 again. I might actually go to 114 again. Again, as I say, we can be in a recession then, but if it only spends a couple of weeks there, it's the end of a downtrend.
Sure. How much impact are these tariffs going to have on Europe now that it's coming out? Where do you see the currency markets going in terms of, especially euro dollar at the moment? Looking at, like.
I'll say it though. I think Europe need to grow a set of balls.
Stop kneeling.
Yeah, and stop bending the knee to Trump, because to be honest with you, if you look at the real figures, the deficit isn't as high as they say it is.
It was 350 billion. I mean, we spoke about this in the office earlier on.
Yeah.
I was like, but the trade deficits, they have to bend the knee to somewhat. But then services
sector. If you look at the services sector is nearly covering the deficit.
Yeah.
If not that we're in the deficit, Europe.
Right. Yeah.
Because we do so much services trade with Trump. So he's not including when he talks about the deficit, he talks about goods only. He he leaves out the services, which is handy for him, But if you actually include them all together, there is no deficit, or it's really, really small. It's not even there, Also, you have Trump talking about Europe have a tariff called VAT. And I don't know where he gets this from or who's telling him what VAT is. VAT is a value-added tax. It's the same as your American sales tax, which is like between 3 and 7%, depending on what state you're in. It's not a tariff; it's a tax, and that pays for your economy. The problem with America is their tariffs are too small in their actual economy. Their tax take is way too small. Their deficit is massive. They're like you can earn $200,000 a year in America and you're only paying like 30% tax.
So what you're saying is, rather than put tariffs on other economies, increase your own tax rate.
Yeah, increase your own tax rate and improve your own economy without trying to ask other countries to pay for it.
Is the problem there that your voters, the same people that vote for you, you're telling them, well, I'm gonna tax you, more. So straight away you're going to get a knee-jerk reaction. It's an easier way to go, oh, well, let's just put this on to Europe or other countries and allow that to, it's almost like he's maintaining his ideology of, having this perspective that he wants to help the people who are that kind of mid-level, low-level earner. We don't want to tax you more.
Yeah, I think, like, to be honest, I think the American citizen has had it too easy for the last 50 or 60 years on the back of everyone else in the world. In terms of like countries are stealing oil from, these countries could have been doing fairly well if America hadn't have raided their oil reserves and took it back as their own. And as I say, like the Americans are paying, like, if you earn $100,000, you're paying like 15% tax. Like, in Europe, we're on the higher rate of tax from 60 grand. I'm not saying we should pay less or anything like it. Like, we'd all love to pay less tax, of course. But the conversation I'm trying to bring up here is Americans need to pay their fair share, and they're not. They're earning too much. They're not paying the same level of tax as Europeans are, and I think America are riding on the backs of us as opposed to the other way around.
Look, at the end of the day, it's not to say all these other economies just can't turn to China or other places to trade with, but the relationship's have been so good for so long, and I think there's been such a huge reliance upon the trade that I think now it can go both ways for me. Either everyone goes, we're not going to bend a knee to you, we're just going to try to find other exports, imports, other countries to trade with, and US is going to find themselves in a really tough position. But he's a bully in the yard. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if you hold the power, you hold the cards, it's a tactic that he's using. Well, will it work? Will it won't work? Who's to say?
Well, I think the funny thing was that before he came out with these tariffs, he was talking about 25% tariff on China, but he only put a 10% tariff on China. He put a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, which was retracted because Canada agreed to put
immigration
X amount of people on the border,
and
also to stop fentanyl coming into Canada when only 0.3% of fentanyl comes in through the Canadian border. And the same with Mexico. He retracted on that deal because they're going to put troops on the border and they're going to deal with the fentanyl crisis. But the point behind that is those two deals were actually done 2 months before Trump retraced on that. So before he told them there's a 25% tariff if you don't do X, Y, and Z, they had already agreed to X, Y, and Z a month beforehand. Sure. The Canadian government had agreed to put troops on the border and stop fentanyl.
Sure.
So Trump is trying to say he got a win. There was no win. It's all a masquerade.
Sure.
And I think it's all masquerading to hide the fact that he only put a 10% tariff on China. It's
a game. It's a game of cards.
Yeah.
Look, we could speak about every topic that we spoke about today in depth and spend all day here, but we unfortunately are on a time limit because our listeners, I'm sure, are come to the end of their tether listening to the two of us talking about Trump. But look, lastly, give us some tips. You're a technical trader, okay? Big time technical trader. Yeah. We've had so many conversations around, well, I believe in building a bias through fundamentals, and I'm also like to use technicals, but it's a part of the strategy. You're very much focused on, look, if you put me in a black room, give me some charts, I can still trade the financial markets, and it works for you. Mm-hmm. Give us some tips around technical analysis for some of our listeners.
Well, it's hard to give you some tips to be a successful trader.
Okay, put it this way. Your younger self, what would you tell your younger self to change, or what would have helped you through the learning process to get where you are now?
Don't be afraid to take profits.
Right.
Yeah, and find yourself a good mentor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I had a good mentor for a number of years. Now, the guy isn't trading anymore now. He has a number of restaurants in California, and that's what he focuses his time on now. But Mo taught me a lot about the markets.
It's key, right? I mean, like at the end of the day, we can spend years and years, and I agree it does take a long time to learn and understand the financial markets, but at the same time, you can really cut that short, a lot shorter, with having the right mentor to be able to have access to their brain, unlock their brain, and pick their brains in terms of how to understand the markets, how to build a bias in the market, how to understand how the fundamentals are affecting the markets, how to go into a chart and understand the technical side of it, understanding entries and exits, and like you say, when to take profits. You have to think objectively when you're trading the financial markets and not trade on emotion. And
nothing changes, because one of my favorite books is technical analysis of the stock market, and I think it's about 80 years old. And I still read that book from time to time, just to update my mindset and on how I read the markets. Also Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns, by Bulowski. That's about 30 years old, that book. So the old books are the best. They're tried and tested, and the markets don't change. Technically, it's all the same. It's been the same since the 1900s, since people were doing using tickers to read the market, ticker tapes. Nothing's changed.
Cool. On that note, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. We really appreciate it. Mark's going to be in the app as well, guys. If you have any questions, you want to check out some of his analysis, by all means, jump in and pick his brains.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Cheers.